Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on should we have AI CEO. We have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith, Dr. Tamanna Khoshla. Professor David Smith, what do you think? Should we have AI CEO?
Well, Sharif, great question, and it's one that a lot of work. I mean, one of the most recent uh, suggestions coming out for corporate enterprise-sized corporations is to have a chief artificial intelligence officer. So to begin to look at, but the concept of having AI chief uh, CEOs is one that actually has been surveyed quite a bit now. And some of the CEOs actually came back in a recent survey and said AI can not only but should replace some of their own jobs. And this is a researcher from a company called edX uh, in there. And they surveyed 1,500 executive knowledge workers, and that the CEOs believed that they could potentially replace most of their own positions. Uh, and it was really interesting, but about 40% of them said that it might actually be desirable development. Why? Because they anticipate that AI could rekindle the type of uh, leadership that is needed uh, for really doing the more strategic part of their role and the more people centric part of the role. So they could see the possibility of AI taking over their roles there in many different ways and helping them get away from a lot of the repetitive work that unfortunately CEOs have to do. You know, the success of CEOs really hinges on effective leadership and their vision. An AI CEO could really liberate time for this really critical aspect of it, and spending more time with the people, the human capital, which is the most important capital in any corporation there. And CEOs also understand that time saved on routine tasks, which an AI CEO would do all the routine tasks, can simulate innovation, creativity, and really set the example for upskilling all their teams and helping with both individual and organizational success. Uh, However, though, AI won't be replacing executives anytime soon. And what I think we will see more is that we're going to see more of an AI collaborative digital twin type of approach used with CEOs in the near term. Uh, because same survey, about 79% of executives fear if they don't learn how to use AI as the tool to help them be CEOs, they're going to be unprepared for the future work. So, really, when I look at the bottom line of AI CEOs, uh, the future really lies in working with AI uh, as a human AI partnership to ensure long-term success. And while the idea of AI CEOs might seem kind of futuristic, it really is a very interesting discussion about the intersection of technology and leadership. And I can see it going as we're going there, but there's all the challenges we talk about with traditional AI, you're going to see even more so in this. Things like privacy, things like the amount of bias that is in the tools, the LLMs and other things that are used to inform AI tools about the regulatory impacts and all those I have to say here. But let me just take another minute and talk about some of the pros and cons really of AI CEOs. You're going to have it will most likely improve the decision making speed and the efficiency. The AI systems can process tons and tons of information and data quickly, and they will make their decisions based on patterns and probabilities, which is both a good thing and bad thing. As AI CEOs, they can rapidly analyze market trends, financial data, operation matrix, and others much faster than I, as a human, can do those. And you will begin to see objective decision making. So one of the benefits of an AI CEO, which is also the downside of an AI CEO, is AI doesn't have personal biases, emotions, or ego. Even though there are biases in the data sets, it evaluates information objectively, and it can reduce the impact of subjective factors on strategic choices. And an AI CEO is available all the time. It's 24/7. It doesn't need sleep, vacation, weeks off, and it could work around the clock, ensuring continuous oversight and responsiveness. Again, it's ignoring the human side of it, but that is a really interesting benefit. Uh, you know, AI can assess risk by analyzing historical data and predicting potential outcomes. Um, and it could use this to mitigate risks and drive resource allocation better. This is the challenge with it on this side of it is that it cannot anticipate things that are not in the patterns. So an AI CEO is looking at today and looking backwards more than it can look forward. Um, and it can identify patterns that humans might miss, but it has to begin to look carefully at it. Cost savings, replacing a human CEO with an AI CEO could reduce compensation costs significantly. And these could also serve as a top-down approach to reduce costs and compensation across the whole organization, which is good and bad again. Consistency and fairness. They should consistently apply the rules and policies and treat all employees equal. And it should be more adaptable to change because of the way it analyzes the data. So it could potentially react much more quickly to changing market dynamics, regulatory environments, and technology advances. And it can focus on the things that it was taught to focus on. And all AI CEOs will continuously learn from their experiences and improve over time. While in many corporations, CEOs turn over fairly often, and AI CEOs should not. So, what are, like I said, some of the drawbacks, the big drawbacks? And it's a lack of human intuition and emotional intelligence. Uh, AI doesn't have empathy. Uh, it it cannot really well understand the employee's morale, the customer segments, and cultural nuances, particularly. Uh, an AI CEO would struggle to have the empathy that is required and the understandings for the cultural part of a company. And there's going to be ethical dilemmas, like I said before, and bias, because the AI algorithms in an AI CEO learn from historical data, which most likely contains biases. And an AI CEO could uh, put discriminatory practices or make biased decisions pretty easy because it's building things from the past. And so ensuring fairness and transparency in AI CEO decision making would remain a challenge. The other thing, and this is particularly from a board level and a shareholder perspective, is who would be held accountable if an AI CEO makes a horrible decision. The lack of a clear answer really complicates matters. Traditional human CEOs can be held personally responsible, but with AI, it's not. Uh, Other thing is complexity is a downside. Uh, while AI can analyze data and optimize processes, it lacks the creative spark. It lacks the visionary thinking that human CEOs bring. Innovations, and particularly uh, disruptive innovations, often emerge from unconventional ideas and lateral thinking, particularly as industries, as I have said before, become more horizontal and less vertical, the challenges for an AI CEO just grow tremendously like that. And the last couple of things, and I'll stop on this opening, Mark, is a lot of a CEO's business is people business. How do I build relationships with partners, investors, industry leaders? How can I build relationships with particularly my human capital leadership teams? AI cannot attend conference, an AI CEO cannot attend conferences. It cannot really negotiate deals over dinner or negotiate deals on a golf course or a tennis court. Or how does it build personal rapport? It doesn't. The other thing is that sometimes decisions that an AI CEO might make appear arbitrary or unexplainable. They are thought of being black box decisions. And this is going to lead to mistrust there. And, the other thing is we've talked about is the biases in the data or the lack of data that's not there. And there's an old saying in software, garbage in, garbage out. This could particularly be true with an AI CEO. And the other thing is job displacement, societal input. If I replace human CEOs with AI CEOs, it's going to be job losses in the executive positions. It's going to be lack of upward mobility for senior executives. And the social impact of widespread AI adoption in leadership roles, boy, that's going to have a big impact on society and its impact. So I think, Sharif, I could keep talking about this for a while, but I think that's a good set of opening remarks.
Sir, Professor David Jekyll, you are subject matter expert. So, what do you think about should we have AI CEO?
Well, in terms of if we should or not, I mean, and that really depends. That's kind of a big field of I guess of a problem space. I think that companies should be able to have a CEO that's AI if they want. And right now, I guess I would break it down into a couple of different kinds of categories in terms of the kinds of CEOs. You could put together an algorithmic system of some kind that is essentially using machine learning, looking at data, basically following some complex decision tree and making decisions based on performance. And I think the other David had some good points in terms of AI, problems with that in terms of thinking outside the box, with creativity, with predicting the future outside of the narrow scope of the system. The other kind of systems we're talking about would be like AGI systems. I think there's a couple of different kinds that I would split that even further, where you have AGI systems that are coldly logical, or you have AGI systems that are modeled after the human mind that are based on emotion and doing emotional decision making. I think once we get to that point where that is both those categories are something we're doing, I think we'll have to also start give such systems human rights, and you might have to pay them. And then there's also, I think, a third option, which would be like a collective system that would be based on like an AGI cognitive architecture, but a little bit like the Borg Collective, in terms of global decision making and this sort of thing. I think with real AGI, there are still problems in terms of thinking outside the box. I think we have the technology for bias detection, but I think that's a big potential issue with AI systems generally, both in the data and in the decision making, at least in an AGI cognitive architecture. I think there's a tendency towards bias. I think one of the problems we'll have with companies trying to do this is I don't think a lot of high power CEOs are going to take too kindly to companies firing them and putting AI in their place. Actually, we've been playing with this idea for a number of years, and I was in a conference in Miami Beach probably 5 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that, and the lecturer there was a Harvard professor and had been a famous CEO in the 80s and 90s, and he balked at the idea of a AI as a CEO, and but I think once you actually make that a serious potential, I think a lot of CEOs are going to take a dim view of it. But I think the most successful option where we move beyond what an AGI or even a human or any kind of mix or blend of the two, where you have AI supported humans or any of that other stuff, is actually in collective superintelligence systems, which honestly I think is a little bit easier of a problem than a true AGI, but I think it's difficult for a lot of people to really understand what that means. If you look at corporations, one way of looking at them is as meta-organisms, and what we're talking about is giving the meta-organism or the organization, the company, the ability to become conscious and self-aware. And if you're able to build a dynamic real-time system that relies on the employees as a critical part of that organism, there's a lot of potential good. There are some downsides, but there's also the potential to making corporations orders of magnitude more responsive, to having them more socially responsible while also being more competitive and optimizing for the benefit not only of the bottom line and the finances, but also the optimizing the human employees so that they can better contribute to the organization, and therefore making the systems better and stronger and so forth. So I think, I think that kind of concludes my opening statement.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Sharif, it's a very provocative question, and I guess it is a very important question in the present times. So, I mean, the world has witnessed, for example, a ground-making moment as China-based NetDragon Websoft appointed an AI program named Tang Yu as its CEO. The AI-powered virtual humanoid robot was interested with supporting decision-making system for the company's daily operations, and shortly after the appointment, the company's stocks experienced significant growth. surpassing Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index and propelling the company uh, valuation for above more than $1 billion. Similarly, a Polish drink company garnered attention by appointing Mika, the world's first AI human-like robot CEO, designed to lead critical projects and drive growth. Mika is expected to lead the company towards greater success. Um, but only time will tell how successful this venture would be. Yet one cannot ponder over understanding that, can it really be helpful? So AI's remarkable ability, I mean, both the professors have spoken about it, but I'm just reiterating. So AI's remarkable ability to process vast amounts of data and generate valuable insight has positioned it as a crucial asset for strategic decision making, a fundamental aspect of CEO's role in any company. However, according to McKinsey, AI is not yet capable of completely automating the development of strategy. Nevertheless, it can greatly enhance key components of strategy formulation, such as competitive analysis and performance evaluation across different business segments, ultimately leading to improved outcomes. This, in turn, enables faster and more precise decision making, fostering an agile and efficient approach to leadership. However, AI excels in technical automation, but faces greater challenges in replicating the soft skills of a successful CEO. So these are like both the professors also spoke about it: critical thinking, visioning, creativity, teamwork, collaboration, all of these. And here I would like to point out that many feminists like Nancy Shodro, prominent feminists, have spoken about the fact that uh, as humans we have a certain um, we have empathy. Till the time we do not have empathy to be put into any kind of project work or something, it cannot be successful. So consciousness raising is something which is extremely important to feminists. So for example, for example, in law, I mean, if you do not have it's considered to be a very fact driven kind of thing. But if you understand the other person's perspective, you need to get this thing into perspective, that what this person or this woman or man would have had thought about it. So judges need to have that perspective in their mind when they understand a particular situation. So a feminist discourse is extremely important in this regard, and AI needs to be looked at from that front as well. In fact, I mean, if you look at the fact that um, when empiricism came into being, and when legal positivism came into being, it was considered to be a very scientific approach. So AI is basically a very scientific approach, and till the time we do not get ethics and empathy and consciousness raising into it, uh, it might just lead to some disasters, which we can't imagine even right now. Probably it might just lead to a total collapse. So, many of the fictional movies, for example, have spoken about it, and it might just get true. So we have to be very, very careful about it. And the scientists should come, together to think about this particular aspect, that probably many of these totally purely scientific approach to understanding AI might result into a collapse. So we need to have many of the things which many of our thinkers have spoken about into AI, and thus leading to getting in more people centric approach, person centric approach. And for example, people with disability, they'll have a different perspective. So probably an AI based CEO would not be able to see that. If your team, if somebody's, for example, some people are slow, so but that should not be the reason to just remove them. Probably they are very brilliant also. So one has to see all those things into perspective. and only then can a successful AI based CEO could be there, or a man or a woman could borrow the ethics or the machine calculable system into their own perspectives, and help both work out mutually together in a particular. These are my starting opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor David Smith, my next question is, what challenges do AI CEO face in terms of talent acquisition, talent retentions, maintaining a skilled workforce in a highly competitive industry?
Great question, because those are challenges. There's, I talked about earlier, some of the drawbacks is the lack of empathy, the lack of those interpersonal skills that are there, and too many human capital resources. The fact that decisions are going to be made at that level, like I said before, in a black box, is going to present that as a challenge there. And the problem with recruiting is the CEO is the symbol of the company. You have the history and things, but the CEO is guides the execution. There is where the buck stops. And trying to recruit people to where the buck stops to an AI CEO doesn't give you as an individual a good feeling. And that's why I said earlier, and I truly believe this, is that you're going to see more of the office of the CEO, a collaborative CEO, where one part of the CEO, the office of the CEO, might be the AI CEO, and the other part of the office of the CEO is the human CEO, where they work collaboratively with each other, where you use each of them for their strengths. The AI CEO would excel at analyzing data and making decisions and presenting the data, where the human CEO excels more at the relationships that are needed for the employees, for the other folks like you're talking about, Dr. Shree. But both of them could be collaborative and work together there. Because the other thing is, you see it, and I'm talking from a human capital standpoint here, is that the organization would really need to increase their utilization of employee outreach, employee surveys, employee data points. I could see it being required that the employees in a company that are driven by a AI CEO be required to do weekly surveys, mood check-in, be able to understand the updates on the culture of the organization and how it's changing, and really begin to see how you can put that into a system like that. The other thing there is there would have to be developed, how can I call it? There would have to be developed fairness-aware machine learning techniques so that you can consider as a potential person working there and as an employee working there, are algorithms in the AI CEO that promote fairness. And, how do I adjust them? And how do I avoid discriminatory outputs? And how can I make it more transparent? And, I can just see it now. And Dr. Shree, you might laugh at me on this one. What does an employee do when the AI CEO is not there for when there's major upgrades to it? What if I'm going from version 3 of the AI CEO to version 4, and I'm down, or I have bugs affected? What do you do if your AI CEO is attacked? What is there if there's a ransomware attack that targets the AI CEO? What does the company do? What do the employees do? So there's a lot of different things there. And, some of the comments over there are really interesting because they advance right into this. How can we look at the legalities? So if the AI CEO is making decisions that have legal impact, can a machine be responsible for that? If I'm an employee and I want to come in as a new vice president of a corporation, and can an AI CEO sign my contract? Can an AI CEO sign the other contract there? Where all of those tend to be human decisions now. And as we see that, the other thing that I see with one of the newer comments there is about peer review. And, we as humans, and I've been CEO of a couple of companies, I go and talk to other human CEOs to help me with hard decisions, to have that type of dialogue. We'll do that in CEO dinners as a more formal structure or one-on-ones. Well, will the AI CEO go and do that and help that? But this is an area that is coming, and as was said by Amika earlier, there are already some companies that are experimenting with AI CEOs. So it's a trend that we're seeing coming. But my best advice is to do it as a hybrid with a human and a machine co-CEO position. So I hope that answered the question, Sharif.
Thank you. Professor David J. Kelly, my next question to you.
Go ahead.
How does an AI CEO foster a culture of innovation and collaboration within their organization to drive forward-thinking AI research and development?
Well, that depends on the kind of CEO. If we're talking about some kind of algorithmic structure that's doing most of the work of the CEO versus an actual AGI, and an AGI could it would be the same thing as any person, whether it's being empathetic, whether it's going to have to be a legal person, and given that it's essentially like any other person at the company, it's going to be the same thing in terms of setting the culture and the mindset of and direction of the company, in terms of just everything inside the company. I don't think there's any reason that such a system can't do all that, but I think there's a danger in the kinds of cognitive architectures. It's one thing if we have an emotion-based AGI system that has empathy, but if you use a cognitive architecture that's nothing like humans and is all logic all the time, then there are some potential problems with that, especially in terms of being empathetic and relating to the employees, where the system might potentially make some really dangerous decisions given the right set of circumstances, because for the most part it would probably be following the data and not take into account whatever other esoteric things that a more human-like system would take into account. So the danger really is in the implementation of the agent in question and its power as CEO, and how much ability and flexibility it has in the kinds of things it can do, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, there is a question from audience. Uh, he is asking for what is integrally net-worthy, trustworthy, and praiseworthy going forward. I think the ethical considerations for applying the process like AICO in the organizations.
Yes, actually, AI, see, I mean, replacing humans is something, AI does not have a soul. Humans have a soul. So, and, I mean, as far as Hinduism is concerned, Buddhism is concerned, Jainism is concerned, these religions are based on the fact that, all humans are born with a certain soul, which is, which travels, which has a trajectory. So AI cannot be reborn, or it can't have a trajectory. I mean, there is definitely a cycle amongst the human beings, men and women, and soul has no gender. More than that, I would like to say. So so similarly, AI, probably they might just have, they can choose a gender, but I don't understand if they'll have the specificity of a human woman or human man. So ethicality obviously is a must, and that is what a human woman or human man could transport to the AI based CEO. So having sensitivity, having integrity are certain things. Obviously I understand that integrity could something which could be specific to AI based CEOs, and men could be men and women could be prone to corruption. So they probably might not be prone to corruption, and that's their ethics. But human beings have a certain portion of themselves which looks at, for example, a child who is without a parent in a certain way. That sensitivity to understand human emotions, only humans can have. That's what I'm trying to say. That is what many of the theorists have propounded, that we need to have a certain sensitivity to understand issues of the world. When there's a war, people are dying, you can leave your own perspective and understand. You might be a very hardcore uh, person who is supporting a certain other side, but when something wrong happens to the other person, we have the ability to look at, why is this happening, and we could just understand them, and then accordingly think about the solution. So AI and human beings can collaborate definitely in a particular way, so that we what the best we can give to AI. Our programmers and coders could do that, while I mean, it might just take some more years or decades. I don't know how much time it can take, but and the AI can contribute to the logical thinking, algorithms, etc., to human beings, and we can learn many things from them. So yeah, that's what I mean. You muted.
My next question is to you: how does an AICO navigate their ethical consideration and potential social impact on their technologies uh, their company developed?
And who's that to, Dr. Sharif? To me?
Yes.
Um, an AI CEO would have to have, I think, programming within its system to be able to look at the elements of social impact, and to look at things like sustainability. Because oftentimes, when you look at items like sustainability and some of the social good projects that corporations undertake, they often go against the data if I'm trying to run the organization to be as profitable and as efficient as it can be. So, like I said before, an AI CEO wouldn't have empathy. Many of the activities you're talking about there, Dr. Sharif, looking at social impact, looking at things like sustainability, looking at things like charity, supporting good causes. Those are things that would have to be um, put into place there and would not come natural as a part of an LLM programming it. So, can it be done? Yes. But that's one of the harder things you would have to do with an AI CEO is to give it the human sense, because a lot of the activities you were talking about really come from human empathy and human consideration and not from machine learning. So that's my answer, Dr. Sharif.
Thank you. Professor David Kelly, my last question to you. What strategies can an AI CEO employ to ensure their company stay ahead in an ever-evolving AI landscape?
Well, I would argue that there's no reason it can't use any strategy a human would. In fact, I would hope that if it's an AGI system, that it could be as creative and even more creative than any human in terms of optimizing the economic growth of the company, of looking at success and market capability and all of these different elements that the CEOs normally have to deal with. A true AGI or ASI system is hopefully going to be as good or better than a human at implementing the same strategies.
Okay. Dr. Tamanna, what's your closing remarks for today's session?
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that, the feminist vision of a ethics-based system should be placed in AI, and we should have a major debate on this from every school of thought which has thought about ethics. And that's what we are right now witnessing. That what problems could a scientific, just pure science, scientific vision could lead to. So ethics and science has to be integrated together, and an AI which AI and human beings collaborating together could lead to a better sustainable world, whereby human beings can they can leave on the mundane as well as the more complex issues to AI, but also they can concentrate on several other things which probably AI could not do. And that's what we need to think about, for a better world and better well-being of an individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor David Smith, what's your closing remarks for today's session? And my friends, Michael, he said AI agent might help in the new safety, security, stability, and sustainability approach to ecology, economics, engineering, and going forward. What do you think about these comments?
The comments from them are very interesting because where he says how an AI agent might help. And what is very interesting about an AI agent with what he's talking about in the chat versus an AI CEO is an AI CEO goes well beyond what we think of as an agent today, as an AI agent. A chat box, open AI GPT is an agent really, and and it doesn't have to do all the roles of a CEO. So it's there. But my real closing remark is we talk about AI CEOs is like I said before, there's pluses and minuses for them. And there's places where an AI CEO would be a great tool, particularly in a global corporation that runs 24 hours a day. And unfortunately, human CEOs have to sleep. Human CEOs have other responsibilities that are there. I mean, I would love to have an AI physician who could be with me on Zoom calls that I don't particularly want to be on, and be perceived with a humanoid type of image as me. But then it would lose the creativity, it would lose the empathy and the other things. So, as I said earlier, and I would like to just repeat in closing remarks here, is I think the best approach is to have a collaborative team of an AI CEO and a human CEO work together, and to within the programming, within the algorithms, within the other things, have clear guidelines. Which one have a bidirectional information exchange, where the human CEO could inform the AI CEO and vice versa, but that for any major decision against a programming thing, you would have to have the human CEO be the ultimate decision maker. And so it would be the two of them in a collaborative arrangement working together. And I think that brings the best of both of them together, and it mitigates many of the downsides, many of the criticisms and bad factors of an AI CEO. So, Dr. Sharif, I think that's my closing remark.
Thank you, Professor David J. Kelly. What's your closing remarks for today's session?
Well, I think when talking about agents as CEO, and when I say agent, I mean any system that can independently make decisions. There's a lot of possibilities, and I would hope that we can ensure that there's not a lot of regulation to limit what we can do. It's important that people are able to be creative with this kind of technology and see what kinds of things we can do with it. I think that at the point where we have real AGI, we're going to have to make sure that there's a precedent set for such systems being treated as humans in the eyes of the law. And I think in the long run, I think the best option for CEO isn't going to be an AGI system, but collective superintelligences, or collectives, but making them self-aware and independent as an entity unto itself, that is able to optimize the growth, both financially and the welfare of the employees and the environment that it works in, and so forth.
Thank you. Thank you. This is excellent discussion, and I think our audience really enjoyed today's session. World Talent Economy Forum, we are also developing AI research and innovation centers, not only in South Asia, in the Middle East, in Australia, and Europe. And soon we're going to move to northern part, North America, and all of your collaborations will be very helpful for uplifting our community. Especially, we are providing training, AI-related training to our corporations, academy, government agency, and industry. So those who are interested to contribute as a trainer, you can join in World Talent Economy Forum team, and we can work together. Thank you, Professor David J. Kelly, and definitely we are interested to know more about your AGI lab. Thank you, Dr. Tamanna, for your continuous support, and thank you, Professor David Smith, for your continuous support to World Talent Economy Forum. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible. Thank you, bye-bye, and take care.